Okay. Grand Rising, welcome to April the 5th, 2025. And we will open by asking if there are any questions from our last session or anything that you desire to raise a question about. No questions? Any comments about anything? Well, let me say this at the onset. Evelyn's brother and and Angela's grandson both will have their services today. And I want them to know that not only do our hearts go out with it to them, but our energy is with them as well.
Shay.
Shay.
No question?
I have an observation if nobody has anything. I didn't know if anybody had something from last week or something that may have gotten your attention. But I have been thinking about when we talk about putting something in the macro, what that looks like. And I am wondering, suppose that my supposition is that it looks like what is described in Acts 1 and 2. But I don't readily know how to explain it. But I was going to read something for me.
Hold 1 second, Ron. Hold 1 second, please.
Yes, sir.
With everyone, make sure that your phones are muted. Check and make sure your phones are muted, please. Thank you. Okay, Ron.
Uh, okay. Again, I was talking about what does it look like when we talk about putting something in the macro, looking at it from a spiritual perspective. And I was looking at Acts 1 and 2 in the day of Pentecost, what that looks like. And I was going to read a couple verses. I'm going to start in chapter 2, but I'm going to go back to chapter 1 and read that. And Pastor, I'll give you the pleasure and privilege of tying all this together. Thank you.
Okay.
Says when the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together, whole house that they were sitting in, and there appeared to them tongues as distributing themselves, and they rested on each one of them, and they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit was giving them utterance. Now there were Jews living in Jerusalem, devout men from every nation under heaven. And when this sound occurred, the crowd came together and were bewildered because each one of them was hearing them speak in their own language. They were amazed and astonished, saying, why are not these men speaking Galilean? Now, we talked about that a bit, I guess, and look at that. But this really starts in chapter 1 when they go to the Mount of Olives, and it kind of goes from there. But when they go back to the upper room, and where I was looking at this was, I'm in chapter 1 now, and it says, verse 9. And after he had said these things, he lifted up while he was looking on, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And they were gazing intently into the sky while he was going. Behold, two men in white clothing stood beside them. They also said, men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into the sky? This Jesus whom you have been talking about from you into heaven, and will come in just the same way to you, same way as you have watched him go to heaven. then they returned to Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey away. Okay, so then it goes on to talk about who was in the upper room, and verse 14, it starting in verse 12, it talks about who all the disciples, the women, and everybody was in the upper room. And then it says, verse 14, these were all one mind, were continuously devoting themselves to prayer along with the women. So what I'm proposing, or what I'm saying, I think I'm seeing here is this. Uh, the Mount of Olives represent part of your journey. And as your journey gets tighter and tighter, and Olives talks about squeezing something out, squeezing the juice or the sap out of you. So instead of saying Jesus, if you substitute uh, this this leadership in me, this higher thing in me that I thought was going to lead me to salvation, going to lead me to where I needed to be, all of a sudden disappears, and I am in a state of confusion. But it has taken me to a point where I am elevated now, and I recognize that I'm in a place I've never been before. And I recognize that there's nothing to go back to. So what do I do? As the olive juice the oil is being squeezed out of me, I go back to my elevated state. At least I try to uh, recapture that position where I feel strong, I feel comfortable, and I go back there. And the like-mindedness of them speaks of my thoughts coming together. And the speaking in tongues is saying, as I understand these things and put them out there in the macro, it is not only available to me, but it is available to every man, because whoever travels this journey, as he said to them, he said, you know, you are able to do this too. Uh, so as you follow this journey and you uh, allow yourself, you too will be able to understand it. No matter what language you speak, no matter what background you have, you will be able to pull this out of the heavens or out of the macro. So that's kind of how I saw it, but um, help me with that, somebody, if if you agree with that anyway.
I, I think that the amount, when they met at the Mount of Olives, where, I think this is the place where Jesus went to pray, right? Ron, is that not where Jesus went to pray? Ron,
Good. Yes.
is that not where Jesus and the disciples went to pray?
I want to say, yeah, yeah, but I'd have to do some research. But yeah,
Um,
it was a familiar place to them. Yes.
okay, so what I'm asking is that I'm trying to remember if this was the mountain of transfiguration where they saw Moses and all the rest of them. That's what I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
And because that makes a difference. Um, you see it? Let me see if I can get there. That's in Acts chapter 1.
What I just read from you is Acts chapter 1 and 2.
Okay. But I'm talking about the mountain.
Transfiguration.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to find. That's in one of the Gospels. I didn't think it was in Acts.
But anyway, um, if this, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing rather, is Mount Olive being a place of prayer, right? A place where you find yourself, and in finding yourself, It says that, where am I? Uh, 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 uh. Oh, so where they saw Jesus ascend was at Mount Olive, and they said that the two in white said that while you stand gazing in the sky, and talked about him returning in the same way that he left. That in itself, is talking about a part of you and your when you see someone who is elevated and you are amazed by what they are saying, or you're amazed by the transformation that they have that you have experienced in that particular person or those people. Um, what they're saying is that don't be amazed by it, because you also can be transformed in the same way. And when it talks about the one who you see ascending will return likewise in the same manner. Um, I don't believe that that translation is clear. I do believe it's talking about you being able to ascend in the same way, but I do not believe that the ascension is an ascension that's a permanent ascension, in that we have been taught that ascension was talking about Jesus coming back at some point in time and changing the whole earth. Are you with me so far? Is that clear so far?
Yes.
So, what I do believe is talking about is the availability of the return, meaning that when you desire um, to have a broader understanding or a spiritual awareness of not only who you are, but how things are supposed to be. It is at that point that a quote unquote return, meaning that the awareness has come to you just like it has to everyone else, or to the one that you have watched ascend not sin, not physically ascend, but have a spiritual ascension, a spiritual awareness that's beyond anything that you or the one watching you have ever experienced. And what's being said by the messengers is that you can ascend the same way, because the same thing that gave them the awareness, the understanding, is also available to you. That's how I see the Mount of Olives. The way I see the upper room is that every single week we are in the upper room, and every time we are talking to someone, or we are processing individually, we are in the upper room. And to me, that means that everyone has the opportunity to be in this elevated space if they choose to. And that is the reason it delineates those who were there. And it also says that this availability is for females as well, even though that has been downplayed in the church. And being in this and delivering a message, or the discussions that we have about understanding the spiritual nature of everything that is, especially as it is written in the sacred writings, um, that makes that is saying that everyone hears in their own tongue, meaning that Audrey hears differently than Ronnie. Ron hears differently than Charles, and Charles hears differently than Nick. But everyone hears the same thing, because what makes me say that is each one of those names I called can speak about what they just heard, they would be saying the same thing, but it would be in different words. I do believe that this goes far beyond languages in terms of in terms of languages that are attributed to different groups or different communities of people, as in Spanish, Swahili, etc. I believe that is talking spiritually. You hear in a spiritual language. And the idea of speaking in tongues goes far beyond what the charismatic church has said it is. Speaking in tongues, the Creator has been generous with us when it came to the speaking in tongues because we didn't know any better. Now we know better. Speaking in tongues is simply saying that everyone heard in their own language, meaning that regardless of who's talking, um, everyone is able to understand it, predicate based upon their level of understanding or the space in which, not space, I'm sorry. I guess I could say that without their level of understanding. You don't have to have a PhD or a high school education or a master's degree or anything in order for you to understand. What we have done, we have been told that this is different languages in terms of a holy language. The only holy language is the language that makes everyone aware of their spiritual nature. The only language of tongues is making sure that everyone uh, hears and hearing mean understand it based on their method, their way of understanding. There are people who understand through repetitiveness. There are people who understand immediately. There are people who have to ponder it before they understand. So they are hearing in their own language. And the reason I say that so adamantly is because a couple of days, well, a few days ago, I think it was, we talked about how we as Africans speak conceptually. We speak a different language uh, than uh, uh, than um, than Europeans speak. We speak a different language. We are speaking English, but the language that we are speaking is not understood by everyone. Now, if we were to take that same language that we are speaking and explain it to them, then they would understand it. So they would be hearing in their own language. Does that make sense?
I also think, looking at it spiritually, I also think it is saying this. When we studied what it meant to speak in parables, we talked about it it's me putting it in my own words, being kind of time release, right? So you hear this, and one day you have, because of your search and because of your journey, your desire, it may not fully come to you till several years later. It's no different than grandmother or somebody saying something to you, and it hits you when you were adult or when you were a teenager. You say, okay, now I understand what she was saying. So to me, putting it out there like that, it is a spiritual thing, and it is always available to those who desire it, regardless of what journey they take. We don't all have to take the same journey, but it is all the same. It is a journey to finding yourself. But mine is, of course, different than everybody else's on this phone.
Well, Ron, we all are taking, I have taken different journeys and still are, but we arrive in the same place.
Yes, yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the macro. It's truth. It's the place to hold truth, and we all arrive at the same place.
And when we talk about the macro, we are simply talking about a the space of spirituality. The macro is the place that from which all of us emanated. It is simply a reservoir of spiritual understanding from which you are able to to draw if you choose to do so. It is always available. And the choice to do so is not you necessarily sitting down saying, you know what, I want to draw from this reservoir. Um, it is simply having a desire to understand self or to become aware of what these scriptures are saying, or becoming aware of the reason that we go through what we are going through. So when we had a desire, we didn't say, well, we are going to receive from this reservoir of wisdom. We simply said we want to understand the spiritual essence of our being. We want to know the spiritual nature of everything that is. And as a result of that, we started doing the academic, and we engaged in the academic pursuit, doing our research. And then it got to the place where that was no longer as necessary as it was in the beginning, because now we were in this mindset, or in this spiritual space where we are able to receive from the ancestors. And even then, we didn't know, we didn't think about or talk about we were receiving from ancestors, this pool of wisdom. Um, we were talking about this came to me, as opposed to saying, you know, the ancestors revealed to me, or the creator revealed, that kind of thing. So there's a whole idea of macro and speaking in languages, understanding in their own tongue. All of these things are what we have been engaged in for quite some time now. We're just beginning to see it clear enough to explain it, if that makes sense. I'm done. Is that what you're talking about, Ron?
Yeah, you've heard me say this before, and I truly believe that uh, the scriptures were written, and the Creator allowed them to be manipulated so that they could be hidden until this time, this day and time. And they are brought to life by people searching for truth. So all this time it has been written, maybe looked at even as history or stories, but there comes a time when you can pull these words not only from the page but from your heart and see what the true meanings are. And that is what we're doing. So I truly believe that these words have been dormant for hundreds and thousands of years, even until this day. So that's why uh, I guess it's so important that we look at this, and it to me it kind of supports a lot of what we talk about. Because we can talk for days and days without even opening the Bible, but we're still talking about truth. So,
I'll take it a step further than that.
okay.
Everything that's written, all the sacred writings, were written for us. Let that sink in a second. Were written for those of us who are together Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They were written for us. And the reason I say that is because they have always been available. The only thing that it took to get to this understanding was a desire, a genuine pursuit, and a determination that could not be manipulated, or could not be abandoned because of our circumstances. What I'm saying is that There has never been a chance to do what's being done now. I'm sorry, not chance. What's being done has never been done before. That's what I'm saying. Because the circumstances that we face right now, we have faced over and over and over. And those circumstances that we face now, we have faced them over and over again ever since we came in contact with European. We have faced those same circumstances. And we talk about this being a repeat of the Reconstruction of the 1870s, ended in 1877. We talk about this being a repeat of it. Why was it necessary? It has been repeated over and over again. This is not the first time that Reconstruction was repeated, but this is the first time that it has been repeated and been met with a spiritual challenge. When it has been challenged based upon spirituality as opposed to legality. Does that make sense? This is the first time. And that's the reason I say it was written for us. Because without it, we would not be able to accomplish what we have been able to accomplish. Even though you may say that, well, we were supposed to accomplish all this chaos, absolutely. If we were not for this chaos, no one would be paying attention to anything. Neither would people be looking for a change. And spiritual change does not come to everyone the same way it comes to us. And I'll give you an example of that. Scripture tells us very clearly that there are those who will be at the vanguard of change. And the way that the scripture was manipulated in that regard, they named the different aspects of those who would be engaged in this period of spiritual awareness. And they called them disciples of delivery. The disciples of deliverance, Yeshua. Jesus, the name that's called Jesus means deliverance. And everyone and all the other aspects of the deliverance were represented by those who they call disciples or apostles. And if we look at the background names, and I'm not talking about from the Greek, I'm talking about from the Aramaic, we will begin to see that all of this are spiritual concepts as opposed to proper names. And now here, however, there were the multitude who followed the desire for deliverance. The multitude did not understand, neither did they see what those who were called disciples saw. Meaning that what we are seeing and what we are putting in the macro is moving the multitude to a place of desire for balance, for the beauty that humanity has to offer. It is moving us to a place where we are beginning to see how things were supposed to be from the beginning. Am I making sense? Hello?
Yes.
So I'm saying that we in this regard are the ones who not only have been chosen but chose also to do this. Because if right now, if those of us who have chosen to be the tip of the spear, if we were to turn around and walk away, as you said earlier, Ron, what are we going back to? That is one of the most discomforting things that you can experience. And that is understanding what the truth is and trying to hold on to what you were told the truth was, as opposed to what it is. And this is not saying that we are above anyone. This is not saying that we are better than anyone. It's saying that we are the keepers of everyone, because to whom much is given, much is required. The burden of the earth are on us. As a result of that, this idea of discipleship is speaking to the concept of knowing how to bring deliverance to humanity. And what happens is you have to bring deliverance to yourself first. When you are a babe on this journey in search of truth, you end up in a tight space. You end up in Egypt, and you are an infant who has been birthed out of chaos. And the word Mary speaks to confusion, speaks to chaos. You have been birthed from the womb of chaos, and you are in a tight space. And the reason you're birthed from chaos is because you're coming out of a religious setting that is steeped in chaos, that is steeped in misery. And as you leave that, you become a babe in search of a life itself, spiritual life, spiritual truth itself. And and while you are a babe, everyone is gunning at you, coming after you. The ones who are protectors of religion ostracize you. The ones who are protectors of religion, they are the ones who are seeking to destroy you, to seeking to stop you. And this is the case when it talks about deliverance being in Egypt as a infant, and when it talks about the birth of this infant who was carried into Egypt, or was taken into this tight space, it does not talk about it being the seed of a man. It is the seed of spirituality. And the seed of spirituality is what brings us, is what births us into this spiritual space and grants us the space to grow if we choose to grow out of this tight space that we have been put in. And as we grow out of this tight space that we have been placed in, we begin to see clearer those things that have beset humanity for thousands of years. And not only do we begin to see that, we also began to excuse me, we also began to connect with like-minded people. And these like-minded people are called disciples, apostles, whatever you want to call that. And these like-minded people come out of this tight space together at the same time. And in doing so, they began the words that they are speaking began to reach the multitude. It begins to reach out to other people. And as it reaches other people, they began to pick up on it. They didn't have a mail, neither did they have internet, but the word got to the other people. So these people, the multitude received from the macro, and they showed up in spaces that they were drawn to in order to hear what these who had come up out of Egypt and been reared in the caves of the spiritual caves of this life, in order for them to be able to decipher what wisdom is saying in regards to the freedom of humanity. And now what do we see? As we move along with this, we see that a huge sacrifice it must take place. And that sacrifice that takes place is dying to everything that you thought the truth was. And when you die to everything that you thought the truth was, you become Melchizedek all over again. And that is the whole idea of a Last Supper, wine and bread. You become a Melchizedek. You have no beginning and no end. No one knows how you got to the place where you are. You cannot even explain it yourself, the way you got to this space of understanding the wisdom of spirituality. Being able to teach truth, not based upon your research, but being able to teach truth based upon your spiritual birth. And being this Melchizedek, this priest, having no beginning and no end, it makes it impossible for those who would seek to destroy you to get to you, because you are in a space that they do not understand. And they began to talk about you being strange. There's something about you I don't understand. The way you talk is different than anyone else that I've spoken with. How is it that you understand things the way that you do? These are explanations you cannot give. The only thing you can say is, I have been on a journey seeking truth, and these things have been shown to me. These are the experiences that I've had, and this is the only thing I can tell you about it. And then what we began to see now is that just as the progenitor seeking the deliverance of humanity began to put things in the macro, so all are doing it now. And now the multitude is beyond any number that we can count. We have become um, the spiritual parents of all of humanity. Our offsprings are numbered greater than the grains of sand in the earth when we started on our journey, but now they outnumber the stars in the heavens, meaning that there was a time when what we understood was predicated on earth consciousness. It was based upon our academic understandings, but our desires were pure and genuine. And then we progressed to the place where we were guided to this space of wisdom. And now, rather than those, excuse me, the ones who are in the multitude understanding from a space of academia, they're beginning to embrace it from a spiritual space now. And in doing so, they're talking more about, well, the universe looks out for me, or I'm going the universe is going to change things, as opposed to saying that God's going to do it. And that was the grains of sand that it talks about with Abraham, when it's talking about God, because that's what religion taught us. When we see it from the spiritual perspective, it's talking about the number of stars now, because it's speaking about spiritual things. It's talking about a light, the light that the physical man cannot reach, cannot understand, but the spiritual man does. It's talking about an enlightenment that is far beyond any grain of sand that is bound to this earth. And right now, where we are in this journey is becoming more and more comfortable with the spiritual nature of our being. And in doing so, we are able to bring more and more people into the fold by not by being on the phone or on Zoom or being on the computers. That's not it. Bringing more and more people into the fold by virtue of putting deliverance in the macro and them having a desire for change. But that desire for change did not come until we were able to expose what needed to be changed and expose the manipulation and the domination that we have endured for thousands of years. And now that those who have been oppressors are being oppressed now, they are beginning to see with a clearer eye than they have ever seen before. Those who wish bad for us, now they are enduring what they wish for us. I have never in my life experienced such things as are going on right now, and watch a people be as calm as we are in terms of what's happening. And so what I'm saying in essence is that right now we we have left the upper room. We have left that space where we are congregated together, seeking this understanding. And what I mean by that is, when we were in the upper room, we didn't realize it. That was during our teacher conclaves. we were in the upper room, and we were receiving, and we were understanding in our own language, and we were receiving from this the spiritual essence of our Creator. Our ancestors were teaching us during these conclaves, and now we have expanded beyond the conclaves that we once had, and the Creator has brought all of us together by way of COVID. And rather than us being in different spaces, physically isolated, we are spiritually insulated now, so that we have a greater opportunity to be able not only to see clearer, but to bring balance to this earth in a much shorter period of time than we think is going to happen. And we by virtue of us becoming more and more aware of our spiritual nature, we also are understanding that this is not about a man or a political party. This is about spiritual change. And the more focused we stay on that and leave the human out of it and deal with the energy itself, it puts us in a space to be able to transpose or transform that energy into a energy that is beneficial to humanity. This whole idea of the renewal of the heart is not talking about an individual person. It's talking about renewing the heart chakra of humanity. This is talking about compassion. This is talking about those without compassion, those without empathy. This is talking about transforming the energy so that they will become compassionate, that they will become empathetic. What we are engaged in is far more than what we have seen in the past. What we are engaged in is a creation. We are in the midst of creating in this earth in a manner that creation has never taken place at all. We are created in the image and likeness of a Kabbalah. We are created in the image and likeness of life itself. We are creating a mindset that will help everyone see that the minds that the wealth or the material acquisitions that we make are not the things that change us. They really actually hold us into this earth consciousness of chaos. We are beginning to see that the value is in changing the mindset of humanity, and that is one of the reasons that that we are experiencing a calmness, a type of calmness that no one is chasing the dollar. Everyone is being is sitting in their own space, saying, "Let's wait and see when the universe is going to guide us to the place where we are to speak the words that are necessary so that humanity can see the balance, the change that all of us have been longing for without even knowing it in some cases, and realizing that it comes from the spiritual the spiritual essence of what government is supposed to be, as opposed to the essence of government that is based upon Greco or the Greek philosophies that were stolen and actually manipulated to say what they intended for it to say. Because if you really look at this thing called democracy, it is based upon Plato's Republic. And we are beyond that. We cannot look to this physical world, this material world, this governmental entity for change, whether it be in America or any place else on this earth. It comes from a Kabbalah, not Africa, but a Kabbalah. And the essence of a Kabbalah is the substance with which we are currently creating an environment of change. Any questions or comments about that? I know I said a lot. Are there any questions or comments about that? Or does it make sense to you guys?
It makes perfect sense to me. And it answers a lot of questions that I've had, especially as events take place. And I continue to be awed by the calm that's in our people and the knowing that's in our people and the acceptance by people who can't really tell you why, but they tell you it's a feeling that I have. So they know that they know. And it's sometimes when we know these things, so innate that we can't articulate what we feel, but we know what we feel.
Yes.
And so, I take a lot of comfort in that, because sometimes I get really angry by what I see. And what really got to me was this country adapting the tactics of people that I never thought we would, and that is disappearing people. I mean, how vile can you be? And so it just continues to reveal the nature of the beast. Every time I think, maybe they're changing, maybe they've evolved to a certain point. God said, no, look, take a look at this. I want you to see this for yourself. And he's uncovering things. He's, uncovering Signalgate and the fact that they refuse to hold anybody responsible, that they got to wash their hands. Oh, it didn't happen, when they couldn't lie their way out of it. They just bulldoze their way, just like they do in the courts. Well, we didn't get the message until they were already landed. No, they found out. They were in the air and they landed anyway, because it was a giant FU to Trump, from Trump to everybody, to the Supreme Court and everybody else. Now we see the Supreme Court realizing they're about to become irrelevant by the same creature they created. And so now they're kind of, stepping back and saying, well, wait a minute now. Let's take a look at this, because we're about to lose control. And so we will become irrelevant, like Congress has become irrelevant. And people are seeing it. The emperor has no clothes on. He don't give a doggone who sees what he does. He's wide open about what he does. You can come to the country for $5 million. Everybody else, come on in. Come on in, because we're taking over. Join us.
Yeah.
And so anybody who can't see it is just blind, stupid. I don't know what's wrong with them. But everything is coming out, and you said that it would get worse, and it did. My concern is that I know it's not as bad as it's going to get. And that really hurts me, because, I love our people. I don't want to see people suffer, but this is a lesson that people had to learn firsthand. And so I watched the other day while they were saying that this congresswoman, I see her face, I can't remember her name, is teaching classes for people who are coming out today about civil disobedience. How to protect yourself, what you need to say, what you need to do, what you can expect, anticipate. The one thing I know they're not going to have to worry about is being physically hurt.
And Cheryl, that's one of the things that I want us to take to notice, rather, and that is they don't even have to have classes on civil disobedience. All they have to do is show up, because nothing is going to happen to them.
Exactly.
And so that's one of the things I think we should never forget. Nothing's going to happen to them. But I thank you for your observations. Nick?
Also, thank you, because I will be at the March for Palestine in downtown DC in a couple hours.
Get in the middle of
Right.
the whole crowd, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so they won't see you from the fringes.
That woman's name was Janice Crockett.
Jasmine Crockett.
I'm
Thank you.
thinking her name was.
He said, You finished y'all?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't think I'm agreeing with what you said, what Ronette said, and what she had prophesied while ago said.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Audrey?
I just have a quick comment. I was sitting here listening to you, and I think it's a perfect example of what we were talking about yesterday in terms of hearing, seeing, and then speaking. Because when you hear from the Creator, and hearing means a lot of things. It doesn't just mean with your ear. It means conceptualizing, and sort of allowing it to resonate within your soul. So when you hear from the Creator, and then as it does what it's doing in your inner self, you begin to see the vision. And then when you see the vision, you see not with this eye, but with this eye, third eye. When you see the vision, then you can speak from your heart. And what you speak will resonate with whoever has an ear to listen. So I was just thinking that everything you said was a clear example to me about hearing, seeing, and then speaking, because that's how we create our environment. Anyway, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, the more you are able to hear that still small voice, the better you will be able to listen for the feeling that you then translate into what needs to be taught based on the questions you get asked, which basically based on the need of the one who is being taught.
Sorry, can you talk a little louder, Nick?
Oh, I said the more you are able to be still and hear for this hear the still small voice, the more you are able to be still and listen for the feeling. It is that feeling or that vibration within you that becomes translated into what needs to be taught based upon the needs of those who seek the teaching. So it is like ideally, whenever anyone is teaching here within this forum, the thing you do is not necessarily look for an intellectual answer. You listen for the feeling, and then you, to the best of your ability, translate the response into what needs to be said. But it is an art form, and it takes practice. It takes meditation on all of our parts to be better teachers, and not just within this context, but everywhere. And it is all based on our ability to sort of have ears and hear in the spiritual sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Question, comment? That's all I have, huh?
Well, I do have something. I don't know if it's going to take us in a different direction, but I think it ties in. I didn't know if you want to, been an hour already. Want to wait till tomorrow but
We should do that because it seems like it's gonna take a minute.
yeah, it may take a minute. It may take a minute.
Are you good with that?
I am.
Okay.
I would like to say one more thing.
Uh-huh.
Related, but unrelated. Just in reference to what is happening in the sort of stock market as a indicator of the further economic sort of turmoil that is headed our way. And then as that actually affects quote unquote normal people. Every time I see this, I just am strongly reminded of those two extremely clear and very, I think, prescient dream experiences that I had. One of them related to the fact that in the midst of essentially an increased level of chaos and stress that everyone in general begins to feel, that's when the paradigm shift happens in terms of, well, we'll see. But the point is that feeling has been building within me very strongly. And I'm about to finally make another couple of videos for my YouTube channel, which I can send once I'm done with them. But something about this is just feels very strongly to me like we are, as we have been saying, witnessing this quickening of this transition. We are witnessing the sort of final stages before the real sort of break or push forward that occurs within our society, which is a reflection of what is in the macro. So as I said, one of these past weeks, it is, I think, and I believe very strongly, the seemingly apparent chaos that this administration will create that provides the sort of gap in the armor that allows for the collapse of the status quo. Not just politically and socially, but the spiritual mindset behind all of the sort of external representation of that mindset. So that is what I believe we are witnessing, and that is what I believe we are seeing accelerate. And there's going to be a lot of wild stuff that eventually comes to light in terms of what we as a sort of collective awareness, especially within America, since we have more influence than anybody else, what we are aware of, what we will have to deal with. And it just, the highest priority of anybody involved in understanding themselves spiritually is always to not allow that apparent sort of chaotic imbalance to seep within and to maintain essentially a positive and sort of loving remembrance of the connection that we all have and our connection to the creator and the fact that all things are one. And it is that stability that holds us through the external chaotic conditions and what allows for that sort of gap in armor to be used opportunistically by spirit to sort of get into and change the nature of our conscious environment that we create as a sort of group of people. And so that's what I believe we are. That's the opportunity that we see all around us, and that is the time period I believe we are in. Like this is over. I believe this is over. This is done. It's just what comes next, as we've been speaking about for so long. And Donald Trump and everything he represents is unfortunately, fortunately, our best shot and our destined is him because it's no one else. So it's everything that that represents. Anyway, like I said, I will be at the March for Palestine. This is one of the first sort of major protests I'll go to, which I felt strongly that I needed to be at or wanted to be at as a sort of indicator of, I think, the quickening of the available energy. But thank you.
Thank you. The very thing that that they're seeking is the boulder that's going to crush the stock markets, as you mentioned it. These tariffs are on purpose to crash the stock market so they can buy stock cheap and get richer. And at the same time, they don't realize apparently that they are arming other people who are supporting them. They're arming them to rail against them now. Greed has become the weight that's going to break their back. There are a couple of things I want to say before we go. I want us for a moment, if you don't mind, to close your eyes. And that's for Mary and Evelyn and Angela. These are, it's a burden. No matter how you think about transitioning, it always is painful, especially the closer it is to you. So I'm asking us, if you for a moment would simply close your eyes and send your energy to Mary and Evelyn and Angela and the rest of their families, if you would, please, just for a moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, we will see you guys again. And we will do what we are led to do by our ancestors. Have a good day. Oh, California tomorrow also. We're done, Vermeil.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Well,
Thank you.
well, everyone.
Bye.